All right, hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to just pop in today and provide a quick update on the Bitcoin price action as we kind of fiddle around up here at the previous all-time high levels. Um, so I want to just kind of look at it at the monthly perspective as well as the weekly perspective. Maybe finish off with the daily chart. But this is one of my favorite templates here. Um, the black theme. I've got two indicators on here that I really rely on. Kind of one of my time tested um, kind of layouts. The first indicator I have is the RSI. Um, this is a pretty common indicator to use in the market, and I really want to cover what I'm noticing in this indicator flashing at us for this week. Um, and then at the top we've got the D7R, the Kurotega cloud. This works essentially like moving average crossovers. That's this indicator right here. Um, it's also very similar to the what is it? The Kurimochu cloud. Ikamochu cloud. Yeah, so it's very much just like moving averages uh, with some sort of smoothing and crossover indicator. But let's start off with the RSI. We're on the monthly. We're about halfway through March. It's March 15th, 2024. And so it's going to be critical, guys, to keep track of this RSI as we kind of get into the 2024 months, as we get into Q2, Q3. Um, because already we're starting to see that this market, and remember the RSI, I'm using a 14 period RSI, meaning if we're looking at it on the monthly chart, this indicator is going to take the last 14 months of data and it's going to continuously update every time there's a monthly close. So every time there's a new data point. And so what this is telling me is uh, in the last 14 months, guys, the market right now is about 75% buyers. I mean, the buy volume is 70% of the trading activity uh, on a monthly basis, as I mentioned. So we look at this indicator, right? You can see obviously up, down, up, down. So whenever we get into above like 70%, we call that overbought. And that's typically when you want to start selling because the market is too hot, it's overbought, there's not enough sellers. Um, so what tends to happen is some profit taking comes in. And then we get oversold, right? When the monthly, and again, for Bitcoin, it's kind of a different chart because an oversold Bitcoin chart actually is anything below 50%. So you can see in the previous bear market, we got to 44 and then 44 again. And then the last bear market in 2022 got a little bit lower, around 40%. Okay, but typically you could see the RSI come down as we'll jump into the weekly. I'll show you how we're looking on this RSI on the weekly chart as well. Um, but just keep in mind, as we get into 75, 85, 90% perhaps, you really should start to be thinking about selling. I know the price hasn't really broken out all time highs yet, and everyone's kind of anticipating this FOMO push to price discovery and to new all time highs. But we're gonna be watching this carefully because as you can see, it's kind of like declining in terms of a trend. If I put my kind of like my analysis of the RSI on here, you'll see that I was actually anticipating this bear market and the bull market with the white lines. This was kind of my forecast of the RSI with the X kind of telling me when to get out of the market around Q1 of 2025. And you can see the green RSI coming up here kind of front running my actual forecast, but we did come in around this 50% level and we battled it and we got support and we broke out into overbought territory now. So we're full, hype, euphoria type of feeling in the market. But you will notice this downward trend line I have 1, 2, 3, right? So I'm expecting if we get past 85%, guys, you have to start thinking about, reducing your long exposure. Um, Now, in the past, we kind of have seen times where we get overbought and then we come down and stay overbought for some time, maybe a few months. It happened again here in 2017 when we had this really extended bull rally past 10K into 20K. That happened pretty fast right up here. But you'll see, like, the last bear market started pretty sharply. We only had like a couple months here at the 90% buyer level, and then it started to sell off pretty sharply um, and continue into the bear market into the end of 2022. So since we turned around, so just keep that in mind, right? The monthly, it still has some room to go. We have months out here. I think we'll probably still hang out around these overbought levels probably towards the end of the year, 2024. So stick around because I will be definitely updating this channel with developments on this high time frame key indicator that everyone in the market is watching. Now, zooming in a little bit, right? Now moving into the weekly chart. Now we can see that on the weekly chart, right? So this was the bear market. We saw it topped out at about 94% buyers. Uh, right at the end of 2020, you look at the date at the bottom there. It says December of 2020. So that's kind of when that bear market started on the RSI. It was kind of front running the actual price action, which is what you want out of a good indicator. We saw some crossovers up here, and it kind of told us, okay, this is probably a good time to take some profits maybe off the table, or definitely not buy into the FOMO at least and get long. So as this sold off, you can see it came into the 25% level. Like I said, that's very, very oversold, and that was clearly a very good time to buy Bitcoin. And we kind of chopped around here. We broke out of this downward trend line, and ever since we've been kind of very bullish. We gained the 50% line, as you can see here, and we kind of almost touched the overbought level before, bear pressure still was kind of, there in the market. There was definitely that interest for the bears who thought that this initial push off of the beginning of 2023 was just, end of year profit taking on the bearish side, and we were going to continue the bear market. But clearly we held on to the 50% battleground line, and we kind of pushed back up into overbought. This is when the hype really kicked in. We sold off a little bit, right? But again, we're looking at a double top now on the overbought territory on the weekly, right? So to see this kind of little correction here on this week in March is totally expected, right? We're getting up close to 90% buyers on the weekly chart. So sellers have to come in eventually. I think everyone is really anticipating this huge push FOMO, like, into 100K and then 150 and then 200, no problem. But keep in mind, the indicators are going to help us with timing in this market. So, halving's only a couple weeks away. I get that. But we just have to keep in mind that this is eventually going to come back to oversold levels, right? We know that. If you look back here, like these indicators are pretty trustworthy. We try to dial in, okay, well, what does oversold mean in terms of price, and what does overbought mean in terms of price? But it's not always that easy. So right now we're looking like 86% buyers, guys, on the weekly. That's the past 14 weeks, right? So that took us to 60K or whatever, 65K where we're at right now, right? So that's all I wanted to kind of cover on the weekly chart. Just keep in mind, we've been overbought since October of 2023 on the weekly, right? And pretty extensively overbought at that. So let me just see what the daily RSI looks like as well. And we, just as I expected, we're seeing some divergence, right? So divergence means that RSI is really dropping heavily. The price is still kind of hovering around the previous all-time high, 65K. So it hasn't really corrected yet, the price. But I do expect to see this daily RSI kind of dribble out towards the halving from this point, which is probably about 30 days away. I think we'll probably just chop around, consolidate. If we break through all-time highs, guys, on this one push without getting some sort of retest or some sort of chop action, I will be very surprised. But the RSI clearly looks like it's been overbought. Like we kind of want some sellers to come in now, take a little bit of profits, give some other long traders and investors a chance to get in. Just the natural market movements that we see. And in the past, here's other examples of getting overbought and then coming into oversold, right? Overbought, coming into oversold, right? Again. So eventually we'll get back down here. What does it mean in terms of price? Well, let's just zoom out now. Let's bring the chart back in, and I'll just take off some of the indicators, some of the drawing tools. Okay. So with the RSI, now we're looking at it and we're saying, okay, well, where's the price going to go? Obviously, the path of least resistance is up. We do have a very bullish looking trend in terms of the Kira Tega cloud, right? We saw this indicator is really solid, guys. And if you do want to follow my publications, essentially what I'm forecasting for these markets, I post them on tradingview.com. You can follow me at Lorenz_capital, and you can see my publications, you know, right as I post them immediately. So that's kind of the cool thing about TradingView. And you can go back, like this publication was posted. Bitcoin's price was 16K, right, November of 2022, and I was essentially calling for 10x return in 1,000 days. That's still what I think is going to happen. In fact, we're ahead of schedule. A bit of a justification here, but the YouTube videos, I'm kind of going to go more in depth and kind of explain my rationale and how to use the indicators. But on TradingView, I essentially, if you put the drawing tool back on and then you click on my publication, you can see what I'm expecting in terms of the technical analysis. And then the cool thing about TradingView is you can actually, you just click it. Oh, I guess I can't with the drawings on. But essentially, you can click it, right, and you can see if you were right or if you were wrong, and you can kind of see how the price action has developed, and you can see that essentially was the bottom. We broke above the moving average, and we started to trend higher. So definitely follow me on TradingView if you want, instant updates. But the YouTube channel, like I said, is going to be more in depth. So where does this, what does this mean in terms of price? I think in terms of support, will definitely come in around 55K and 50K, like 47, 48K. If we do pull back, that will be a great buying opportunity, because I think in the end, I do think we will probably come down on the RSI and then come up one more time into overbought territory as we near the end of 2024. It's going to get crazy, with the presidential election in the U.S. There's a lot of things going on with the Fed this year, on track to hopefully, pivot and start kind of loosening the monetary policy. And hopefully we get some rate cuts. That could fuel another big pump in Bitcoin. But I just wanted to point out, I guess, in today's video, just be mindful of these indicators that are starting to flash overbought, starting to flash a little bit of greed in the market. Definitely not a time to start thinking about FOMO and taking on huge risk at this price. Even though we know that there's a big fundamental event, i.e., the halving coming up in a couple of weeks, huge event in crypto. As I've been saying, you want to position yourself ahead of that, like years ahead of that, so that you're not scrambling and trying to FOMO and catch up with the market. But be prepared for some volatility. We should expect to see, maybe some 30% corrections on the way up. It's not going to be a smooth ride, right? So there usually are a lot of bumps and a lot of little shakeouts that could potentially, eat away at your gains. So definitely stick around. I'll be very helpful when it comes to the timing and the technical analysis. Got about 5 or 6 years under my belt, especially in the crypto market at this point. Thousands and thousands of hours watching these charts, guys. So do me a favor, just tune in. You'll learn a lot from this channel. But yeah, ultimately, I think we're still looking at these price targets, right? If you put the fibs on, these things are going to guide us. The Fibonacci tool, right? These are going to guide us into the extension levels as we kind of break out into uncharted territories, right? New price discovery. But as you can see, my forecast kind of has us. I think this is anything above 300K, guys, is going to be nuts. I've got a huge red ceiling right at some of these higher extension levels. Like past the 161 is going to be nuts. If we get past 160K, that is pure FOMO. So I don't think we're actually going to end up getting all the way up here. But this is just to put on the chart the yellow forecast, because it shows you, it helps me remember how fast, right, and how sharp of an angle that these charts move in crypto, right? Because you can easily get caught sleeping and forget how fast these things move. I'm sure a lot of people thought they had more time to accumulate at the bottom, and here we are now at all-time highs. So I like to just have essentially some guidelines of what to expect, and ultimately this bear bull market is a thing of beauty. It's shaping up just like all the others. in the past, and that's what I like. It's his predictability and then something I could trust. But we do have the halving coming up here, guys. Stick around. I think we're gonna have a very exciting year in the crypto market, and hopefully with this channel as well. So if you've made it this far, please hit the thumbs up button. Consider subscribing. I look forward to updating you guys in the future. See you in the next one.